Will we all be long dead before the Montreal Canadiens win another Stanley Cup? And is Jonathan Drouin trying too hard? This is Hockey Inside Out. Welcome to the final episode of 2017. We'll be back in the second week of January. That's January the 11th. So if you miss us, just rewatch this episode for the next 3 weeks. My name is Adam Susser. Joining me today is Chris Nilan, CBC Daybreak's Jessica Rusnak, and from CTV Montreal and Habs Eyes on the prize, Mr. Julian McKenzie. Welcome, Julian.
Hey, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Our pleasure. It's our pleasure. Here's what we're going to be talking about on today's episode. Number one, are the Canadiens doomed to mediocrity, or is it possible to build a Stanley Cup contender without a top 5 draft pick? Number 2, is it too early to rate the Habs as losers in the Drouin-Sergachev trade? Number 3, is Jonathan Drouin trying to do too much? Number 4, does Carey Price have good reason to be standoffish towards the Montreal media? And number 5, what's gotten into the Habs' fourth line? Let's start the show. The Montreal Canadiens have had only 2 top 5 draft picks since they last won the Stanley Cup, roughly 1,000 years ago. Those 2 draft picks have been Alex Galchenyuk, who went 3rd in 2012, and Carey Price, who went 5th in 2005. Since their last Stanley Cup, which I'm now told by my producers is 1993? 93,
Got
okay.
it.
Yeah. Since their last Stanley Cup in 93, the Canadiens have had teams that have had sometimes been quite better than average, and at other times been far below average, so for the most part, they've been pretty average. Are the Montreal Canadiens doomed to mediocrity, or is it possible to build a Stanley Cup contender without a top 5 draft pick? What do you think?
Anything's possible, but right now I just find this team as mediocre. They're playing that way. They're a 500 team. What's the future going to bring? Who knows? But I think this year, this team, especially this road trip right now, if they don't have success on it, and it was a good start last night for them, but if they're going to be letting in 5 goals a game, it doesn't look good for them on the road trip. And if they don't do well on this trip, that could be it for them for this season.
I think the Canadiens have had trouble building through the draft for many years. If you even go back to the 2006 draft when they picked David Fisher over a guy like Claude Giroux who was available, and then you continue going from there. Louis LeBlanc, Jared Tenorti, Nathan Beaulieu, none of their first round picks are even around the team. Michael McCarron, he doesn't even look all that hopeful right now. So I think for them, they just have to do a better job drafting overall. And when Marc Bergevin took over as GM in 2012, he said the only way to build a team is through the draft. And he came from Chicago, a team that did a really good job at that, and he hasn't been able to do anything with it. So I think even if the Canadiens did have a top 5 pick, somehow they would be able to screw it up. And case in point right now, Alex Galchenyuk, he was supposed to be, the savior of this team. And now, he's basically holding on by a thread, and people are saying that he could be traded.
Yeah, this guy, I feel he's been terribly mismanaged by this management. This was a guy who's supposed to be the number 1 center going forward, and all of a sudden he's being put on the wing, he's being put on the 4th line in the playoffs, and now there's all this talk about trading him. At least there was at one point talk about trading him, but the Canadiens are at fault for diminishing his value. And if you look at the recent Stanley Cup champions, to go back to that whole question about top 5 picks, Los Angeles would say yes, Drew Doughty. Pittsburgh would say yes, Evgeny Malkin, Sidney Crosby. Chicago would say yes. I think you have to go all the way back to maybe Detroit when they won in 2008. And I mean, Detroit's a master at drafting in like the 4th round, 5th round, 6th round. So you need those top 5 players from the draft to do significantly well and win a Stanley Cup or even give yourself a chance. And the Canadiens find themselves with 2 marquee guys picked in the top 5, and they still can't do anything. Carey Price was an outstanding goaltender over the last how many years, and we're starting to not see him necessarily at that elite level that we're used to. Allowing 5 goals, that's not the Carey Price we're used to. We were spoiled all those years, and the Canadiens were not able to put enough pieces around him to turn those playoff runs into Stanley Cup championships. So, yeah, I'm kind of with Jess here. I feel like if the Canadiens do get another draft pick, they're going to screw it up. Like Rasmus Dahlin. People are already bringing up the whole, tank for Dahlin. Let's get Rasmus Dahlin. I always think, imagine Rasmus Dahlin coming to the Montreal Canadiens and having to learn from J.J. Daniel. That just makes me cringe.
Or the Canadiens will draft him and trade him, like we saw the Ryan McDonough thing that everyone is not over with this city, and I don't think will be for a while.
No, for sure.
Do you think the team, though, is responsible for Galchenyuk not doing as well as he should be doing? Would he do better on another team?
He has to take responsibility in that. And you look at the way he came into training camp. He came into training camp with this coach like he wasn't serious. He came in like it was Guy Lafleur and he won 6 Stanley Cups. He didn't work. He floated, and it showed up when the season started, and that's why he ended up on the fourth line. He got himself there. The center wing thing, whatever. He's been around long enough. If you can't learn how to play in your own end after 5 years in the league, I don't think you'll ever learn.
But I think it's the way that he's also treated by the team. Pat Hickey asked after the Vancouver game, Alex Galchenyuk got a goal. What did you think of him and his line? And the first thing Claude Julien said was, I don't think they played a very good game. Now, I think if it was any other player, he wouldn't have started off the answer that way. So I think it's a little bit on both sides, as Chris said, that Alex Galchenyuk needs to know that he's a professional. He's not Guy Lafleur. He needs to work for it. But at the same time, I think if the Canadiens sort of dealt with this outside the media, it might be, a different story.
100%.
Like change his diaper and feed him some Magnum.
100%. No, I think it falls on both sides here. I think the Canadiens, as I mentioned before, they mismanaged him. But at the same time, I don't think he's necessarily helping himself here. He still comes across as this person who isn't necessarily mature. And yeah, you're absolutely right, Chris. He's been in this league long enough. He should know better. But I don't think it helps when the team keeps putting him in different lines and they don't keep him at center, where he probably should have been all along. You live and die with his mistakes and let him improve from there. But instead, they said, hey, you know what? We feel you're a better fit at wing. Oh, you're not a good center. You're not able to play in your own end. It's the things you say sometimes, right, that'll maybe affect the player. It's on both sides.
Okay, well, on the other hand, maybe if the Canadiens did get a good draft pick, they would trade him away, like case in point, Mikhail Sergachev, which brings us to our next question. He's 8'15", 23. He's a plus 13. He's a defenseman. It's his rookie year. Those are impressive numbers for anyone, let alone a rookie defenseman who's played 33 games. Do you think it's too early to call the Habs losers in the Sergachev-Drouin trade?
Too early. Too early. Listen, this kid, lots of hope here when he came. And he was going to be the guy to carry the ball forward when Markov retired. But it is too early to tell. You got to wait till down the road. I don't like the fact that Drouin came here and now he's a center and I still think he's a winger. Everybody's out of position.
Everyone knows he's a winger. Everyone knows he's a winger.
And the way he's tried so far this season, I give him an A for effort. But honestly, where he's at right now is not a good place. But Sergachev, again, he went to a team that's loaded. He's playing well. We knew he was going to be good. And everybody whines and they're going to say it's a bad trade and this and that. But everybody demands a trade. And then when you make a trade for one very good prospect, for one very good player, and the early results aren't in favor of the Canadiens, and everybody's going to, oh my God, he screwed up. It's going to take some time.
I think it's one of those situations where it's comparing an apple to an orange at this moment that, as Chris mentioned, Sergachev is playing on a very good Tampa Bay Lightning team where Jonathan Drouin is playing on a very inconsistent Montreal Canadiens team. But like you said, if you have to trade something good to get something good. And because of their poor drafting, the only player that they had that Tampa Bay would be interested in is Sergachev, and that's what you had to give up. But I'm not ready to declare either team a winner or a loser at this point. There needs to be, more time to develop and see how different teams react over the years.
Well, the funny thing about it is, I'm totally with you on the fact you have to give something to get something. But the Canadiens, one thing that's been a need all year is a puck-moving defenseman. And Mikhail Sergachev fits that mold. And the Canadiens don't have that anymore. So while you do get a skilled player like Jonathan Drouin, I'm a huge fan of him. I still think he's going to be the best player out of that draft class he comes out from. But you have to give up a stud like a Mikhail Sergachev. It's hard to not look at these Tampa Bay Lightning games with envy and be like, damn, he should have been on our team. So it's too early to say the Canadiens are a loser in this trade, but man, this really hurts. Yeah. This hurts.
Last Saturday night in Ottawa, Jonathan Drouin was stripped from the puck by Bobby Ryan with 3 minutes to play. It led to his second goal, pretty much ended the game for the Habs. Do you think Drouin's trying to do too much?
So you trade for a guy who's normally a winger. You make him your center. You make him the savior. You give him all these different things. He makes one big mistake, and we're asking if he's doing too much. Oh, okay. Remember at the beginning of the year when you see Jonathan Drouin with the puck, and he's having all this skill, he's doing all these great things. You're thinking, man, this guy is like miles ahead of everybody. This is a guy who you're expecting to do a lot. he made a mistake, or in this case, actually, Bobby Ryan picked his pocket and looked really good when he did it, which is one of the few bright spots he could say for this year. He's not having that great of a year. But Jonathan Drouin, the one mistake, we're all piling on him, and now we have all these rumors about him being sheltered. He's not available to the media after that mistake. Like, I don't know. I think it was one mistake. He can improve from that. It's fine. I don't think that's a big deal. Trying to do too much, I want to see him do too much. If he's the savior, he's this guy who's supposed to lead this team to the promised land. You trade Mikhail Sergachev for him. He's supposed to do too much.
I think everyone sort of saw this coming when they traded for him in the summer, that the moment that Jonathan Drouin makes a mistake, it's going to be highlighted because, like you said, they put him, he's front and center on this team. I would not be surprised if he's the captain of the Montreal Canadiens in a few years. So, I think it's kind of pointless to put too much thought into that for that one game of it and, let him learn from that mistake.
Yeah, I think you explained it earlier. You said, is Jonathan Drouin working too hard? You can't work too hard. Now, the mistake he made, it's one of the big things in hockey. When you are the last man, you don't try and beat a guy one-on-one. And I'm sure he knows that, but it was at a point in the game where they're down by 1 goal. He was trying to make something happen. I don't have a problem with the mistake. I have a problem with the game itself.
Yeah.
The way the game was played by the majority of the team. 3 or 4 guys showed up, 3 maybe, and the rest, honestly, it was crap. They played a crap game. No backbone in that game whatsoever, and they deserve to lose.
Okay. So Carey Price has become increasingly hostile towards the Montreal media. What did we ever do to him? That's what I want to know. Do you think he has reason to be standoffish?
Oh, God, I don't know. Because of that interview the other day, I don't have a problem with it. And honestly, all players could care less about the media. It's been that way all the time. Since I played, I looked around the room. Guys hated the media. They always took the stances, the media cannot help you, they can only hurt you. And I don't believe that's changed today. Guys, sure, you have to have a rapport with the media. And you have to do the interviews, but I guarantee you close to 100% of them would much rather, after a game, take this stuff off, go take a shower, and go out and do what they do. Because honestly, it's always been adversarial with the media. And, again, in Carey Price's case, Galchenyuk's case, Pacioretty, all of them, there's been rumors, there's been stuff out there, and they take it personally, and some of those rumors could be true, some could be false. But when guys hear about it, it affects them adversely. And if he wants to be standoffish, I don't have a problem with it.
But this is what I think. Is this the first time anyone has ever met Carey Price or listened to his post-game scrums? Like, Carey Price has never been known for a guy who's warm and fuzzy when it comes to the media, starting from basically day one. He's a quiet guy. He doesn't like to talk. Sometimes, he can give a really good interview and he's in a good mood that day, but those are one-offs. This is classic Carey Price, so I don't really understand why people are getting up in arms about this. This is what you've come to expect from him. So to me, it's only normal. And as Chris said, some guys don't like talking to the media, and this is what they do because then you can ask 25 questions in the span of 1 minute, and then they know that they're done.
Yeah, plus the team is losing as well. Imagine if this team was winning. I'm sure Carey Price would be a little happier, a little more jovial with the media, but you're losing and you have rumors being spread about you. That's not a good combination if you're Carey Price. So I'm not surprised about the whole standoffish mentality with the media stripes. So yeah, way to let us know how you feel about the media, Chris, too, as well. Yeah.
Well, it's true, though. As much as the media they probably don't like it, it's true. Guys could care less if they talk to anybody.
But I think there is some members of the media that take it too personally, that you have to realize that this is a job, they're not your friends. So if they are, in a bad mood and they don't really want to answer your questions, it has nothing to do with you personally, they just don't want to talk to you that day.
Okay. Nicolas Deslauriers scored twice against Vancouver on Tuesday night. The fourth line has been stepping up hard for this team lately. What's gotten into them?
Well, this is sort of reminding me, I think it was back in 2014 when they had that really good fourth line with Dale Weiss and Brandon Press, and it was really that energy line. And I think that's something that they've been missing, is that one line that's not necessarily the superstars of the team, but they're able to chip in, give some energy, and take a little bit of pressure away from some of the star players. Max Pacioretty still has not found the back of the net in that game against Vancouver. He had a lot of chances. He had 2 assists, and he looked like he was starting to find his game a little bit more, and he'll find the back of the net probably soon because I think he just feels good about himself after that game.
I have to offer a mea culpa here. I was wrong about Nick Deslauriers. I mean, Nick Deslauriers has been putting up points since he got called up, but I figured that calling him up as opposed to Daniel Carr was the wrong move done by management. And eventually the Canadiens did right by calling up Daniel Carr, which, by the way, I think he should be a regular in this team. This is a guy who should have a 15-goal season by now. He's able to bring energy, and he's able to score goals. You don't need to depend on him like a top-line scorer, but that's a guy you can put on your bottom lines, and he can give in and chip in and give you some scoring. So I think one big reason why the Canadiens' fourth line has been doing so well, I have to attribute it to Daniel Carr. I think in all but 2 games he's played this season, he's put up at least a point. So Daniel Carr, some of that youth that comes in, Byron Frais has done okay as well. And Deslauriers has brought a bit of a spark, I have to admit. He was in 2 great spots yesterday against the Vancouver Canucks, both resulting in goals. So they've been able to bring some spark. And also with Marc Bergevin's track record with getting all these bargain bin guys and fourth line players, you shouldn't be surprised that the bottom line guys are able to bring energy. Bergevin's able to get those guys and put them in the right position. So.
Yeah, for sure. They're bringing energy, but I think the big difference with these 3 players on the fourth line is the fact that they want to stay here. They want to be here. They want to prove to the coach that they belong. Other guys, they know they're here. We have a contract. You know, if you watched the game the other night, they floated through the game. It was too cold for them. But these guys go out and they keep the game simple. They put the puck in, they work it, they cycle it, they go to the net. They do the things that, quite frankly, some of the better players on this team just aren't doing. And until they start to do that, they're not going to have success.
Okay, well, that is our show for this week. Final show of 2017, but like I said, we'll be back on January 11th. I want to thank everyone on our panel today. I want to thank you at home. Enjoy your holidays. Don't get too depressed about the state of the Montreal Canadiens, okay? I'm Adam Susser, and I'll see you on January 11th.